Well, greetings, everybody, and welcome once again to the Rec Poker Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Fredlund, and we are sponsored by Running Aces. So thanks to Running Aces for being our official sponsor. This is the week that many of you have been looking forward to and asking about. The week that I finally get to sit down with Minnesota legendary poker player Kou Vang. Kou's a pretty young dude, but he's already 8th in Minnesota all-time earnings. He's 703rd in the U.S., and he's currently ranked 216th in the world on the Global Poker Index. So Kou is a wealth of information, but beyond that, he's just one of the super guys that I've met in poker. He's one of the guys that has continued to encourage me whenever I run into him, just by how he presents himself and how he is a promoter of the game. And so I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation that I had with Kou Vang. All right, everybody. Well, I am here via Skype with Kou Vang. And first of all, Kou, man, thanks for taking the time to chat with me today.
Absolutely.
You're one of those guys that, we do this Rec Poker podcast. We got a lot of recreational players that are listening to this thing, and people are constantly, I was just in Grand Casino Mille Lacs, and people are like, hey, when are you going to have Kou on? We want to hear from Kou. And so I'm excited to make that happen for all of our listeners. You and I, we haven't played a ton together. We've been at a couple final tables. We've done some All In for Africa stuff, but we haven't played a ton together. I've just been watching you and going, wow, this dude can play. So it's going to be fun to kind of pick your brain a little bit. Let's just start, man, with kind of what's your background? Like, who is Kou Vang? How'd you get into poker? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's it's a pleasure to be here on the show. And, I've listened to some of the podcasts in the past before as well. And I think you're doing a very good job, not only for recreational players, but for the whole poker, community here in the state as well, too. So I really appreciate what you're doing.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. A little bit about my background. I am kind of a product of that moneymaker boom back in 2003, 2004 timeline. And so once Chris Moneymaker won the whole thing about 13, 14 years ago or whatever, me and a bunch of friends, we just started playing sit and goes like every Friday, Saturday nights. And we all really got into it, and we all created accounts on Party Poker. And some of us just got really into it. I was very fortunate. I got very lucky in the beginning, ran really well, and had some sort of small success. So then I got really hooked onto it, and that's kind of how it all started together for me.
Well, it's so interesting because I'll watch the World Series of Poker, and they're always talking about the moneymaker effect, and obviously the numbers are there, but part of me always says, is that just overrated? Are they giving too much credit there? But I keep talking to people like yourself that say, no, that literally was the moment when I thought maybe I should get into poker.
Absolutely. It definitely was for me. I growing up, I've always just, been, really into gaming and stuff like that as well. And once Moneymaker won, I mean, we all believed that, we could do it as well. We could all beat the pros.
Yeah.
And once you get your hand online a little bit and start, winning a couple sit and goes here and there, you start to become, you start to think that you're God's gift to poker, that you're the next Johnny Chan. So that was definitely me for sure.
Yeah. And so you played some live with your buddies and you played online. And then how did that kind of morph over time? Like, how did that change over time? Did you become more into online, or did you become more live? Did you move from cash tournaments, kind of that? What's been your process to get to where you are today in terms of what you play?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we all got accounts on Party Poker and just basically practice during the weekdays, and then we just meet up on Fridays and Saturdays and play $5, $10 sit and goes, and then I think our game lasted for a couple of years. Eventually, it was a little tougher than what everyone had imagined. So a lot of people quit, one by one. And eventually the game, people stopped coming to the game because it was a little,
because you kept taking all their money.
No, I wouldn't say that. But I think everyone found out that poker is more of a hobby than, something that they like to pursue. And so in January 2006, because our game was kind of dying, I started playing online seriously, and so I took it from there. I started in January of 2006, I believe, and so been grinding online for about 3.5 years or so, until about 2009, and then I moved out to Las Vegas. I did that whole professional poker thing, moving out of Las Vegas deal. At the time, I had my wife, and I only had one child, so I thought it was a good time to move out there and grind some cash game and do some tournaments out there.
Yeah.
I actually only stayed out there for 14 months until about January of 2011, and Las Vegas just didn't work out for me. I found out I spent the majority of my time out there playing online, 5 days a week and only 1 day at the casino. So it just didn't make sense for me to live out there. And eventually, after a while, my wife and kid also ran out of things to do, and they got really homesick because all our family and friends are back here in Minnesota. So January 2011, we moved back, and the Minnesota poker scene was also booming during that time. So I thought, just moving back just makes the most sense.
So when you moved out there, prior to moving out there in 2009, you were playing online, but did you have a different job, or was that what you were doing for income, primary income?
Yeah, no, the purpose of moving out there was strictly to play cards, and I play some, usually Friday and Saturday nights out at the casino, but the majority of the time was spent on playing online still.
Okay, and so at that point, you were already playing. That was your primary source of income. Moved
Correct.
to Vegas to make a go of it. Decided, I'm playing online anyway. People are homesick. Let's come back home and start routing the Minnesota players.
Yeah, I think I think it was back then. It was the Minnesota State Poker Tour.
Yeah,
had started up as well too, and I came back for a visit in late 2010 in October or so, and happened to win the Canterbury Classic. And
I saw that was your big score, 78K or something, right?
Yeah, so that really made the move back easier. I mean, I thought if I ever had a choice to move again, I don't think I would. I just think this is home. I think our poker scene here is pretty good, and so I just don't think there's any reason to move anywhere else. Okay,
and so you've been back ever since. And what are you playing now? Like what are your do you follow any of the tours? Do you go out of state for some of those things? Do you play just locally? And then kind of how do you split your time, cash and tournaments?
Yeah, I have been traveling the last couple of years. I think 13, 14, and 15. I did a lot of traveling, out of state, following the Mid-States tours wherever they go. There was other tours, HPTs, and sometimes flying out to like the Borgata for like WPTs or out to LA and stuff like that. I haven't in the last year and a half or so, just because my family's growing now and I'm required to be home a lot more now than I have in the past. So I haven't been traveling, but every time I do travel, it's 100% tournaments, and when I'm home, it's usually about 95% tournaments and about 5% cash games. You rarely see me at the local card room playing cash games, just because I'm just so more, used to playing online, like multi-tabling, the faster pace, and I think it works out a little better for like the ROI. So
okay, it's very, very cool. And let me just take a chance to just say, man, you're one of the great ambassadors of the game here in Minnesota. I'm sure that people are after you all the time to represent them, just because of the way that you present yourself. And one of the things I really enjoy about you is you've always made playing the game fun for those of us who are less experienced. So every time I'm at a table with you, I really enjoyed that experience, even though you may take my chips and you may be bullying me with your play. I just appreciate that. And I think for any of the folks that are listening out there, I think and I'd love your thoughts on this, but I think one of the best things that people can do to grow the game is to encourage people that are less experienced at the tables and not berate them when they make a bad play and all those sorts of things.
Correct. I love the game, and I see myself doing this for a long time, so I definitely want the game to grow. And the numbers do show that the game is still growing. Everywhere across the country, MSPT are breaking record. HPT are breaking record. WPTs are breaking records. So even though they're having all their tournaments on the same weekend, or if it happens to land on the same weekend, they're still breaking numbers everywhere around the country. So I think it is an obligation for all the pros to help grow this game as much as possible and make it fun for everyone else that is at the fel.
Yeah. I think it's part of it is I think you're just personality is you're just a good guy. But I think for the people that struggle with being a good guy, I would say challenge yourself to at least pretend you're a good guy, because that's going to draw us out there, and your prize pools are going to get bigger and bigger.
Correct.
Let's switch gears real quickly. As you look at your game, as you look at the success that you've had, and part of this is we never, as observers, we never really know the whole story. We see the big cashes, but we don't know all the time and effort that goes into that. We don't know all the money that gets spent in buy-ins and all the costs of being a professional poker player and all of those things. But from everybody's perspective, we feel like you're one of those success stories. You're sitting there, Global Poker Index, you're ranked number 216 right now. I don't even know if you're aware of that. You're 8th all-time in Minnesota earnings. So you've had a ton of success from our perspective. But as you look at your game, what are the keys to success? I mean, are you just naturally gifted in this game, or is it a result of hard work? Is it something in your personality? What would you say at a high level are some of those things that just have made you a successful player?
That's a very interesting question. I'm really glad that you asked that, and I don't think I'm gifted at all. Honestly, I'm one. There's a lot of jobs where, like Michael Jordan was just born to shoot a basketball, or Manny Ramirez was just born to swing a bat, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think that I was definitely born to play cards or whatever, but it took a lot of hard work. It took a lot of time to, basically kind of study the game, prepare, and a lot of trials and, errors. And I've had my fair share of a lot of failed, attempts, driving across the country 24 hours, playing a tournament and busting 5 hours, and then having to spend the night there and then driving back home. So there, it's not quite as, easy and glamorous as everybody thinks it is, but there's a lot of, there's a lot of missed barbecues in there somewhere, family events in there that you have to kind of sacrifice because you have to go play the HPT, 6 hours away. So but I can say that I've been very fortunate, and I've been very consistent in my career. And that's because I play, a lot of online to help, bankroll myself as well too. I mentioned earlier, right off the bat, I started playing online, and I think that helped create good fundamentals in my game, good awareness in my game. And it carries over to the live arena, where a lot of these guys aren't, getting as many hands dealt to them as I am getting online. And so I think experience definitely helps at the felt. And so I've been very lucky that I've been consistent, and playing online, kind of evens out the variance out a little bit and helps, you make a little bit more profit. If you only play a couple of tournaments live a week or, monthly, it's going to be really hard to sustain your profession. I would say that for sure.
So just no substitute for experience?
No, not at all.
Yeah. Well, let's take a quick break, and we will be right back. Running Aces Casino and Racetrack has the best poker room in Minnesota, featuring 24/7 promos on all cash poker games, including earning $2 per hour in comps, plus the most player-friendly tourney structures. Visit runaces.com for daily promotions and the tournament calendar. Running Aces Casino and Racetrack, the official sponsor of Rec Poker. All right, Kou, so let's shift gears again. As you play all these tournaments, and some of them local, some of them as you travel, you're playing different levels. I know you continue to move up in the game and are playing more of the bigger tournaments, but what do you see as the most common mistakes when you're sitting at the table and observing, and you just know these are mistakes that people are making? What are the kind of those categories of things that you see?
That people make mistakes at the table?
Yeah. As you're watching the play, whether it's less experienced players or even experienced players, when you're sitting there, you're going, boy, that's a mistake. What?
Yeah, well, some of the most common ones, I think are just like simple ones, like overplaying or overvaluing a certain hand, getting married to a certain hand. I mean, betting to protect their hands, or just simply like betting to find out where they're at. And I think you see a lot of this at at the live setting. But let me talk about what I think I see, and then if you don't mind, I'll tell you what I had problem with in my career.
Yeah, I would love that.
So like hands such as let's say if you have aces on 9-10 diamond X or whatever, and a lot of people, there's 5K in the pot or whatever, and they go all in for $20,000 because they feel like they have to protect their aces or whatever, right? And so, like, they're never just, they're just never getting called unless, they're flipping against, like, a straight flush draw, some sort of combo draw, or, whatever. And sometimes they get check raised instead of just calling and going to showdown or making a decision at a later street. They end up, like, going all in to protect their equity even more, which I think is, a mistake. So I think these are just the common mistakes. Bet sizing, I see a lot of that. And, I see a lot of people complain about, having like a certain hand they hate, or having a, favorite hand that they play under any circumstances, which is, I think, also, you should never have a favorite hand, or you should never really have a hand you hate. You should probably just try to play every single hand as best as you can.
Right. Yeah.
And then I think one of the big things for me is like players, giving up, especially early in tournaments, say we start with 20,000 in chips or whatever, and in the first hour they lose 15,000 of that. Have, 25 big blinds left, and they're, ready to reach in their pocket for bullet number 2. I think that every tournament I've won or, gone, made a run in the past, I've been at or below 10 big blinds. And I think I've told numerous people, these stories that I've, came back and won a tournament from like 6 blinds or whatever. And, nobody seems to believe me, but it's true. It's true. And I think I think that's one mistake that I definitely see live is people, just taking a beat early and then basically giving up or so.
Yeah, so they don't recognize the equity they still have in their stack, or I think a lot of people, to piggyback on that a little bit too, I hear people talking about their stack relative to the average stack all the time and early in tournaments, and they might have 50 big blinds, but they think, well, I was half of average, so I had to get going. I'm like, well, you had 50 big blinds.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that's overrated, and I see some of the top pros doing that, which I never understood, is when average is, say, 50,000, and everyone writes, they have, 30,000, which is below average, while 30,000 is 40 BB or whatever,
right.
Especially in a tournament, such as like the 10K main event where you're sitting at 80 BB and you're below average, on day 2 or whatever. Right. A lot of people panic, and I've just never understood that. I've always just considered my stack by number of big blinds and see how long I can last in this tournament without playing a hand. So that's exactly why you consider number of big blinds is the number of rotation you're going to get dealt until you get blind out. And so I think average and stuff like that shouldn't even matter.
And it's one of those concepts that I've actually been kind of noodling, developing a little mini training for people just from a statistical perspective too. If the average is, say, 50,000 chips, you've got so many people that are well above average and so many people that are short stacked. And I think to say, oh, I've got half of the average, I think is very misleading, because you think, oh, that means I'm behind. That means I'm behind the entire field. Well, you still might be in the ahead of a third of the people that are in the field in terms of your chip stack, if you're worried about kind of your relative standing.
Right. Yeah, I think you should ignore, I never really look at the average stack. That just never really bothers me. I just look at the amount of blinds I've left, and what my opening ranges are now with certain stacks, and how best to play my certain number of big blinds. I think that's all you should worry about. You should not worry about how much the chip leader has or anything like that, or the humongous stacks at your table. I mean, it's I think you're going to be intimidated if you're always trying to play catch up or look at other stacks compared to yours.
Yeah, I think if you think that the name of the game is really making the optimal decision at the right time, whenever you allow those things to enter your mind, I think it can force you to play suboptimally, because you start chasing chasing the money, and you're not making the right decisions then. Hey, you talked about mistakes with bet sizing, and I'm curious. I'd like to explore that a little bit more. Do you see a lot of that more on like pre-flop bet sizing or post-flop or both? And maybe you can expand a little bit on what sort of subcategories of bet sizing mistakes you see.
Yeah, I see it a lot, post-flop and both, pre-flop as well. Like a lot of the people, they have aces or kings or a big hand, a big holding, and they kind of want to protect it a little bit more. So they're sizing a little beefier pre-flop. and then post flop and stuff like that. So let's say if I open with ace ace on like the cutoff or whatever, and Steve Fredlund peels me from the big blind, and the flop comes 7-6 deuce rainbow. Like here, if we have ace ace, I think that our sizing here, let's say if there's 10,000 in the pot, our sizing here should be the same as ace ace, or if I have 10-8 off on 7-6 deuce. Mm-hmm. Like my bluff here with 10-8 with 2 overs and a gut shot should be the same as ace ace. So I think the correct strategy here would be exactly like the same 35% bet. And I see a lot of people, because they have ace ace here on 7-6 deuce rainbow, they go 8,000 or even 10,000 on 7-6 deuce rainbow, which is definitely incorrect in my opinion. So that's a sizing flaw that maybe the lesser experience make that I do see. But I think the correct play would be just to choose the same sizing here.
So I'm curious, in terms of why it's incorrect, one is you're being inconsistent with your bet sizes, so potentially you could be tipping your hand as to the strength. Is the other mistake that you're really forcing your opponent into playing more optimally? Or what's that?
I'm sorry. I don't think I understand.
Oh, sorry. So I feel like there's, and correct me if I'm wrong. See, I'm always transparent on these things, and I'd love for people to correct me. So I guess I see 2 mistakes on making the big bet size there compared to what you normally would do with a bluff. One is that you're giving away the strength of your hand, and the good players are going to be paying attention and knowing that the size of your bet means something. Mm-hmm. And then the other one is, I think one of the things that in poker you want to force your opponents to play suboptimally, to make mistakes.
Correct.
And so I feel like when you're making a big bet there, they're only going to call you with something that's, like you said, either the massive draw, the straight flush draw, mm-hmm. But I guess it's an unsuited board, or they're going to, be calling you with sets, things that beat you.
Right. Let's say here they continue on 7-6 deuce rainbow, like they could continue once with, like a top pair, like king 7 or 7 or whatever, or even, second pair. I mean, we do want to induce those hands to continue.
Right.
And when we're bluffing here with 10-8 or 10-9 or whatever, and a good, barrel card comes on the turn, like a queen, a king, or an ace or so, we're still continuing, we're still barreling. So we're basically telling the same story with 2 different hands. And so I think that, a lot of the people, they don't realize that. They just go ahead and bet big here with aces, and then, say, a 7 comes, or say, the same card comes on the turn, like a queen or whatever, and they go ahead and, fire again, and, they lose action, or else, somebody else catches up and they lose action or whatever. I think it should be played exactly the same way if we're going to keep, try to keep balance in there along with our nuts and our bluffs.
Right, and I think one of the things that, less experienced players deal with too is that, we're not necessarily paying attention to as many things as we should be. Mm-hmm. And so I think we assume that other people aren't paying the same level of attention. I think, you always assume that people are playing the same way you're playing. And so one of the things I've noticed is, as I've moved up in the games, you start playing the 280s or even the 1100s, mm-hmm. is that people like yourself are now paying attention to those things. Whereas, in the $30, $50 tournaments, I can change my bet sizing all I want, and nobody's really paying attention.
Right. Well, even though they're not paying attention, I think that you should also work on paying attention yourself and doing things yourself, and start practicing, good gameplay in game.
Yep.
And when you see something that you can exploit, then you can go from there. But I think that, let's say if on a hand like this, I think that it doesn't matter if we're playing a $5,000 tournament or a $50 tournament, Monday morning tournament. Mm-hmm. That we should go ahead and choose the same sizing here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so and I think that leads to some of the things that I've made mistakes on in the past, coming up in my career as well too, is a lot of times in the past I've been very aggressive, and it's more of like a bluffing game. It's almost like a war zone out there for me, where it doesn't matter what the flop is for me. I'm betting the flop, and I'm not considering what the turn is. I'm betting the turn again, and let's say if they're strong, I'm just basically letting them know that I'm stronger, which is basically trying to push everyone off every single pot every time.
Yeah.
And I think that's also one of the mistakes that I made coming up. And it's poker is really not a bluffing game. It's a game of information, and it's a game of maximizing and minimizing, and we just go from there.
So do you feel like you've changed in the last couple of years too in terms of your level of aggression?
I have. I think I think I've changed more to a game, theory approach. However, I definitely still have some of that, blood in me, where I sometimes it comes out and you still want to, you still have to kind of hold yourself back a little bit, because it's just too tempting in certain spots. But every spot I see, and I think if it makes sense, I just go for it anyways. But in the last couple of years, I feel like my game has definitely changed quite a bit, and I think it's all for the better. I think it's more suited towards bigger tournaments and making deep runs in some big events. And I've had tremendous help in the last couple of years. I met Vlad in the last 2.5 years, and also Aaron as well, and they have been basically my coach and my life coach and life mentors in the last couple of years. So I think they've done a very good job, and really appreciate just the fact that I found the two of them.
That's so awesome, and they've got so much respect for you. I've chatted with both of them too, and they're just great guys as well. It seems like you guys have a great thing going there. And I was going to mention Aaron as well, because you talked about maybe changing your aggressive nature a little bit. One of the greatest learnings I had was a few years ago. I had just started playing poker, maybe 3-4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And you and I and Aaron all made a final table up in Grand Casino Mille Lacs or something. It might have been like their Grand Series or an MSPT.
Yeah, I remember that. It was an 1100, correct?
That or a 350. I'm not sure which one it was. Okay. But I had a chance to play with you with like 2 tables left. We were playing quite a bit together, and then we combined. And Aaron joined the table, I think. And it was interesting because I knew both of you guys were just these powerhouse poker players. Very well respected, great games, and just the dynamic. It was so interesting because you were hammering pots. You were raising and 3-betting and raising and 3-betting because I think the table allowed you to do that. And right. Aaron was much more patient, and then when he had a hand, he'd win a nice big pot. And it was so interesting to watch the dynamic of those two different styles both have success, and that's when I realized, okay, so there is more than one way to play this game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that was super fun, super interesting for me to kind of experience that. So other mistakes that you think you've made over the years that might be helpful for people to learn from?
Yeah, one other thing I think that that I'm really well aware of now is, like, in the past I've never really considered every option on every single street. Like, example, let's say Steve Fredlund raises an IPO with like King 9 offsuit or whatever in the big blind, and the flop comes King 10-4. I check call, and now like the turn comes a king. And like in the past, because I've tripped kings here, I would always check it to you, hoping like you coat for coat hang yourself, or go ahead and made a mistake here by betting.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of times they get checks back, and then you lose value there, and then you bet the river, and they just somehow end up folding like ace high or whatever, or whatever. So yeah. I think that like learning to assess every single street is really, really important. And I a lot of the lesser experienced players do not put a lot of thoughts into, basically, taking a look at all their options before acting. And so, just even now, like I have, some family members or some, cousins coming over, watching me play sometimes, or, just wanting to play themselves, and I watch them play, and they would turn trips, or they would make, trips on the river or whatever, and they just go ahead and check, and, they lose a ton of value. So I think reassessing and seeing, what you can do in every single turn card or river card or whatever, has helped me out a lot in the last few years as well, for sure.
And I assume that's a lot of experience, because I think about that as if I'm really on my A game, I'm trying to think through those things.
Right.
But it takes me a while to actually walk through that process in my head, and I don't want to be tanking on every decision. So like something like that, like what are the main factors? So you turn the third king. Mm-hmm. What are the main factors that you're considering? The situation stays the same. You're out of position. Mm-hmm. Everything else is the same. is it just about that person that you're playing against? Is it about the stack sizes? I mean, what are those key things that make you decide, should I be checking here or should I be leading out?
Yeah, well, all those things are definitely to consider. Let's just put ourselves in a neutral position first. I mean, like, let's say here on a king nine, let's say I defended with king nine, the flop comes king 10 3, two clubs or whatever, and I check to you, you bet, and the river comes a king. Like, I know that if you have some sort of flush draw, straight draw here, you're just most likely checking back on the turn, right? Mm-hmm. So if I check here and you check behind, the river comes a 4, and I lead on the river with a bet, like, all your draws are just pitching it anyway. So
yeah,
I might as well just lead the turn. I mean, let's lead the turn, and now we can go into sizing and stuff like that. Let's say if you only have like 1.5 to 2 pot ratio left, I can go like 30% and bomb river as if I miss some sort of draw myself as well. But I think that just looking at a neutral stance, like with no stacks in play, I think my main topic here is to consider every single street before you act, and that does come with experience, such as what you just mentioned. But yeah, I mean, if you take 5 to 10 seconds, before acting on each street, I don't think anyone's going to call the clock on you. I mean, we're playing for a tremendous amount of money. I mean, even though, let's say first place is $1,000, and it's not a lot of money to you. I mean, it's a lot of money to me. So I don't think people are going to get on you if you try to play your best game at the table.
No, for sure. I think that's where what can I process in 5 or 10 seconds? That's where the experience comes in, because some of those things that I think a lot of us have to still, almost have a logical decision tree framework for. You've been able to internalize those, and they just come, quite naturally.
Right. Yeah. So next time at the Phil, I think in order to start getting good at poker, I mean, you just have to look at all your options. The flop. Consider like what's best: checking, betting, check raising. Look at all your options. I mean, don't just check to be checking, or don't just check hoping for someone to bet, or because they're gonna bet. Like a lot of times you could be wrong as well too. So do what is best for yourself, and not what
And has it always been a part of your game, or is it something you've had to work on in terms of thinking ahead to what your opponent might do? In a number of the games that I play, I'll see people raise and then they get 3-bet, and they're like, oh, now I got to figure out what to do. Or they 3-bet and then they get shoved on, and it's like, oh, I never even thought about that being a possibility. Is that part of your game that you've had to develop to really think through, what am I going to do if this happens?
Yeah, well, I think that's just something that comes with experience. Once again, and for me nowadays, it just comes naturally. So like let's use that same example. So let's say on the river, I make trips. On the river, I make trips, and it completes the flush. And there's $10,000 in the pot. And I have king 9, and now on the river I have 3 kings, but the flush got there. Right?
Yep.
Like, and there's $10,000 in the pot. Like, my sizing here would probably be like somewhere between like $65,000 to $8,000, because I know that if I go $8,000 here, you're just never raising me on the river, without a flush here, or without, having a full house. So every time you call me here, it's like I'm winning like 100% of the time. Right? Mm-hmm. Like right here, I'm prepared. I'm prepared to fold if I make an $8,000 bet on the river and you go ahead and rip on me. I probably take 10, 15 seconds to evaluate again. But I mean, it just becomes naturally that if I get raised here, I'm most likely beat. But we should still be leading on this river. We should be leading on this river, because sometimes when it's going to go check, and we make trip kings, and we just lose value on it anyways. Right.
So yeah, no, that's really good, because you will get called by less.
Right.
So, but how is that different from playing devil's advocate and just trying to understand your brain a little bit? So, how is that different from betting 3,500 or 4,000 because you want to get called by inferior hands and then getting raised? Is it because that 4,000 seems weak, so a re-raise doesn't mean what it would if you were betting 8,000?
Yeah. Well, sometimes we level ourselves into into thinking, because we made a smaller bet, that we are going to get raised. And a lot of people, let's say you're playing against a Carl, where you know they're not scared to put in that extra bet.
Yeah.
Like a $4,000 here, sometimes you level yourself into calling his, raise to 20,000 or whatever. But I think in order to truly protect us and to get the most value every time we get called here, we should just go ahead and mash it here. Just because a lot of the times when they have aces in their hand or whatever, or second pair or whatever.
Yeah.
They're just not raising you. They're just calling you there all the time. And so we should just maximize our spot here. And not only that, but protect ourselves to our full ability there, where we're just never getting raised. I think.
So your intent is to show strength because that makes their re-raise much more believable.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's good stuff. Yeah. So let's shift gears a little bit as well. I'm curious, like, what are some of the hardest concepts that you've had in terms of trying to grasp them or be able to execute them or internalize them? Like, I know for new people learning the game, there's this idea, let me understand, 3-betting, let me understand c-betting or check raising, or what are my opening hand ranges? Are there certain concepts that you've had to really work hard or that one day just kind of clicked as far as understanding the strategy?
I think that, for playing for MTT for as long as I have, I think I should have got a better grasp of it, much sooner than it is now. But I think like creating your 3-bet folds and your 4-bet folds are like really tough for me in the beginning, because I never really had hands where I could decide on what to do with it. And so sometimes it would just be random clicking, like, oh, Steve has 3-bet me, numerous time here, and I have like the 9-3 off here. I'm just going to go ahead and 4-bet it here, 4-bet fold here. But I think in the last couple of years, with the help of along with Aaron and Vlad, I think that we have figured out not like pre-flop has pretty much kind of been solved a little bit, like in the first raise and second raises and stuff like that. But I think when it comes down to like 3-betting or 4-betting, or even 5, like even 4-betting for value or 4-betting for bluff, like I think we have kind of figured that out quite a bit in the last couple of years of, hands we choose to do it with and hands we choose to pass up, or hands we used to, 4-bet, get it in with. So I think that's one of like the, I'm not sure if that was your question, but I think that was one thing that it took me a long time to kind of figure out, what I want to do when it gets up to that level. And I think we've kind of, found out a little bit, better in the last couple of years. That's for sure.
No, that's for sure part of my question. That's great. I mean, because I think about myself, and I'm sure it's reflective of some of the other less experienced players, is, okay, I finally got a pretty good handle on, I think, what I want to do for my opening ranges, and what to do with the 3-bet against those ranges in whatever position I'm in. But, yeah, it's kind of that next level as I move up in tournaments, where I'm moving away from tournaments where, okay, it's just limps or a single raise, so now there is a lot of 3-betting and 4-betting going on. Well, how do I feel about that? And instead of just being surprised when I 3-bet with ace-jack and I get 4-bet on,
right? How
do I feel about that? Yeah, I think that's good. And so when you guys look at it, you don't need to reveal all the secrets, of course, but is it kind of like determining your opening hand range? I mean, is it really like down to that level where you say, here's my 3-betting range, my 4-betting range, my 3-bet fold, my 3-bet shove, all these different things. And then obviously you adjust to the chip stacks and player dynamics. But is it kind of in the same vein as opening hand ranges? You just kind of know what you're going to 3-bet and 4-bet with?
Yep. Correct. So say here, we're opening ace-3 suited, like hijack, right?
Yep.
And we get, let's say we get 3-bet by the button or whatever. And so like right here, this will fall into my 4-bet, bluff range right here from, certain ace-x to certain ace-x. I mean, this is, I'm going to make it, or from certain king-x to certain king-x suited, I'm going to make it a point to where this is my 4-betting bluff range. And from certain pairs to aces, or from certain ace-x to suited to ace-king suited, it's going to be my 4-bet and get in range versus him, right? So that's so you start developing that, and it's kind of some sort it's basically the same chart as like opening from UTG or opening from low jack or opening from button, but it's just that next, like it's just that next bet, like the 3-betting to 5-betting now. It took me a long time to develop what I would like to do beyond that first raise or second raise, but I think that we've done a pretty good job in the last couple of years.
Well, I would love to explore that, the ace-3 hand, because I'm kind of where you're at on that, but I know it's a shocking sort of thing to hear you say that, just kind of in passing for a lot of the recreational players, because ace-3 obviously not a powerful hand,
right?
And you raise with it, and then you got 3-bet, and instead of just folding, now you're 4-betting, and so.
Right.
What are some of the things that go into that thought process of saying, why is ace-3 a good 4-betting range bluff against a button 3-bet?
So are you asking me that question right now?
Yeah, if you're willing to answer it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's not the best of our aces, and second of all, it's let's say if we do get PO, we can still make all the nut, flushes, we can still make all the wheels. And we have an ace blocker. We have an ace blocker, which means he less likely have ace X himself or pocket aces even. And sometimes when we get peel here, we can still flop an ace against all his pairs, like kings down onto, nines or whatever that he decides to peel us or whatever it is. And we can still hit, an ace in there and just, basically check defend our hand. Or check call a couple, check call two streets and decide. So it's not a hand. He also should still have some 3-betting ranges. Bluff as well too. That plays a little better than our hand, such as king 9 suited or maybe even 6-7 suited. That if we just flat there, out of position, we're just going to get pillaged a lot of the times, because even though his starting hand is worse than ours, he has more playability, more flops than we do. So we just go ahead and 4-bet here and have him fold, so we don't have to deal with that post flop. But if we do get to post, that our hand can still have some playability as well.
And so if I think about it in terms of, the value of your hand being both fold equity and hand equity, it's a play that you would make against a button because they have a wider range more than you'd make against, somebody from earlier position.
Correct.
Yep.
And even against some, let's say if same spot we're in the hijack and let's say +2 9-handed, we're at a 9-handed table and +2 opens. Instead of peeling there in the hijack where we're going to get some peel from the cutoff button, and sometimes the small blind, the big blind will come along as well too, and we're going to be a multi-way pot. I mean, it's just better just to go ahead and 3-bet here as well. So.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that notion of the blocker, maybe expand on that a little bit. I think people underestimate that. I guess what I'm thinking of is you got this. You put this person on a range, and they've got a lot of, ace king, ace queen, ace jack, pocket aces are all kind of part of that broader range. But because you have an ace, that diminishes the probability of those. Is that how you're thinking about that?
That is correct. Yeah, that's it. It's fun stuff. I think in the last couple of years we've developed. We've had a better idea, developed better ideas of how to. Use our 3-bets, 4-bets, and even 5-bets sometimes. And not only that, but just kind of, developing more game theory approach where, every decision is to minimize, maximize, or, off certain ranges of, our opponents and stuff like that. And so it's not, poker has changed quite a bit in the last couple of years. It's just no longer the day of, random clicking out there. So, there's a lot of tools, on the internet, out in the market that can help everyone. And some of them, aren't. I mean, they're not very cheap. A lot, but there's still a lot of free, a ton of free stuff out there as well too. And you have to kind of be, studying and learning, or else, you're every time you join a tournament, you're just going to be putting in debt money. So
yeah. So we'll take a break here in a second, but just real quick on higher level, a pre-flop or post-flop play, which gives you the most. Which gives you the most difficulty, or which do you think you're better at, or which do you have to study more?
Definitely post flop, post turn, post river. I think those are, I think every street gets a little tougher and tougher just because there's more possibilities out there now. There's more cards out there now. So I think the easiest for me is pre flop. Pre-flop is almost somewhat solved, I think. I know for sure I have not solved it, but I think the hard, after flop it gets a little tougher. After turn it gets even tougher, and then river, sometimes you're going to be put in some very tough spots because there's so many more. There's millions of combinations of board runouts that you may not be prepared for, that only experience can help you with. And every run out is just different. And so if you start training your brain to memorize certain runouts, or to protect yourself in certain ways, such as let's say we raise with Jack 9 of clubs and the flop comes King 9 3 2 diamonds. Like, we know the best to protect ourselves here is to go ahead and check after he checks to us. And then, like, say the turn is a 6, a heart, or whatever, checks to us. We're going to go for a little bit of value here so that, sometimes he checks to us on the river. He may just check fold. And so we want to protect our equity and get a little bit of value in there. So there's certain runouts that, are very simple like this, that, it's not difficult, but there are numerous other, spots. The more happening pre-flop, the more the tougher it is post-flop. So if there's 3 bets, 4 bets pre-flop, and the run-out's going to be a little tougher to read. So it's something that experience will help you out with a little bit, but I think it's something that I still have to work on every day myself as well.
Good stuff. Well, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Running Aces Casino and Racetrack has the best poker room in Minnesota, featuring 24/7 promos on all cash poker games, including earning $2 per hour in comps, plus the most player-friendly tourney structures. Visit runaces.com for daily promotions and the tournament calendar. Running Aces Casino and Racetrack, the official sponsor of Rec Poker. All right, so home stretch here, Kou. Thanks for all this, man. I could pick your brain for hours. I'm curious about physical tells and your thoughts on that, as far as how much do you value those, how much do you incorporate them into your decision making, all of that stuff.
I have never really put a whole lot of thought into physical tell. I've made some very big calls in my career where the guy asks for my chip count on the river, stands up and puts me in, and I end up calling off because whenever somebody has the nut, they're just not going to stand up and put you all in. A lot of the times they go into this little shell and they put you in or whatever. So I've made a lot of tough call offs in my career where I've been put to the test. But I've never put a whole lot into it. I think it just comes naturally for me. Whenever the cards are being dealt, I look at each person's fingers or hands or whatnot. But I think that gives me the most tell. Facial expression, I think, can lie. I think sometimes eyes can lie as well too. I think that sometimes people don't realize how they act at the table and may give something off here and there. But I think I rely a lot more, maybe 95% fundamentals more than life reads or anything. And I think a lot of the reads that I've had in the past is because it just something just comes up naturally.
Right. Okay. So really, it would have to be a pretty, it'd have to be a pretty obvious tell for you to kind of have it influence your decision.
Yeah, Chris Foxwell is a good friend of mine. I know he's really big into tells and stuff like that, and I think he probably even has a chapter on tell in his book. I'm not sure, but I'm not real. I mean, I'm not going to go there, scare everybody, and basically try to get a read out of them. It's sometimes it just comes out naturally, and you just know that this guy's not acting normal, or this guy is just not breathing normal, or whatever, or this guy is just doing certain things that you just haven't seen before, and you try to, make a best case possible read out on that situation. But I think live tells are very, very important for sure. But I do not, I would say maybe 5 to 10% of my decision making is based on that.
And I know some people will say, I use tells to help me figure out, okay, this guy, based on his actions, obviously he wants me to fold, or obviously he wants me to call. And what I'm hearing from you is maybe more of that can be discerned from the betting patterns and what he's done on each street.
Right. Yes, I follow a lot of that. That's exactly it. I think I just follow a lot more of the fundamental base of like the course of the hand history that that we just went through, or certain betting patterns, or certain hands that I saw in the last couple orbits or in the last couple hours or so, and so much more than his acting as of now.
Right. Okay, that's good. All right. Well, on the home stretch here, I got a couple more questions, but for newer players or even for experienced players, what advice do you have for them as far as how do they improve their skill? How do they learn the game? How can they sort of speed up their development as a poker player?
Love this question. Play online. It is your best source of learning fundamentals. I mean, for me and Vlad, we call it the streets. It's where we go to battle, and you're just going to get so many more hands per minute. You're just going to get so many more hands per hour. If you bust a tournament, you don't have to go drive home and come back tomorrow for another tournament. You can just log back in. Fundamentals are just so important today in today's poker world that not a lot of live pros are just going to make it. If you play 2-3 tournaments a month as a hobby, it's okay. If you play recreationally, for side income, it's okay. But if you want to pursue professional poker, or even just part-time part-time poker pro playing in the future, I suggest that playing online, it is your absolutely best source. You can still make some money, and you can just, that's just where you're just going to learn. If for me personally, as many books as I've read, as many videos as I've watched, playing is just my best learning tool. So
do you have any, if you're willing to, do you have any recommendations on where people would play online, and I guess your perspective on how safe it is and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think it's fairly safe right now. I mean, there's always said, the risks. I'm not sure. The Unlawful Act never really specify what it is, but I there's always some sort of risk. But I think in the last couple of years, it has been pretty safe. And I play mostly on the Winning Poker Network, which has 3 or 4 different skins. I think the most popular one is America's Card Room. Mm-hmm. Second is Poker Host, and third one is Black Chip Poker, along with True Poker. So I think there's 4 different skins, and I play on there weekly, starting around noon till all the way till about midnight. There's tournaments around the clock, and ranging anywhere from $1 to $200. So that's for me personally. That's just where I prefer to play.
Okay, good stuff. And then any other, as far as, in addition to playing online, any other ways that you'd recommend people develop their game?
Yeah, watch all the free tools that you can possibly get your hands on. YouTube has a whole bunch of good stuff. I believe you guys are working with Jonathan Lill in some sort of way.
Yeah, we're doing an audio book club.
Yep, Jonathan Lill has a lot of good stuff. There's Twitch, there's a lot of good stuff on Twitch. I'm sure you know this already. Mm-hmm. Jason Somerville is really good. There's a lot of good. I'm actually very shocked. There's a lot of very good online legends. Twitching their sessions for free. Online for everyone to view, and so take advantage of that. One of my very favorite, and I think that he's just the best fundamentally sound player as far as the game nowadays is Doug Polk. He has a training site. I'm also a subscriber on there as well too, and it costs a little bit of money for the more advanced stuff, but I highly recommend that if you want to truly learn fundamental poker and get good at poker. I think Doug Polk's site, Upswing Poker, is probably the best there is on in the market right now.
Good stuff. So obviously, somebody at your level still working on your game. How do you kind of split your time between actually playing and development? Watching videos or doing whatever.
Yeah, for me, it used to be 100% play and 0% like lab work.
Yeah.
I just felt that I just had to keep playing in order to get better. But nowadays, after meeting Vlad and in the last couple of years, I think I split it more towards 80% play and 20% study. So like I usually play Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. And so my study days are, Monday afternoon till, about 10, 11 at night. That's my homework day. And then Friday mornings till, 11 a.m. till roughly about 3 in the afternoon. Those are my study days. I think in the next couple of weeks, starting mid-August here, we're actually going to do more group meetups. I think we're going to try to meet at least 5 to 6 hours on Mondays, and sometimes on Friday evenings as well too. So I'm going to start trying to play less and do study sessions or do groups studies with. I actually have a couple of different groups as well too. So I have 2 groups to meet up with. Twice a week or once a week. So twice a week for me. Okay. So I'll probably be doing more of that and just kind of gearing more towards being a better poker player myself as well.
Well, it's super encouraging for us recreational players to know that you and Aaron and Vlad and all these other people are getting together and becoming better players. That's really encouraging to us.
We are.
I'm being sarcastic because we don't need you guys getting any better. See.
Yeah, well, like Aaron, Aaron can, I love Aaron. I think Aaron can reach the moon if he, if he, shoots for that. And I know it's been a blessing to know him, and he has taught me a lot in the last couple of years. So if he's willing to meet with me every single day, I'm willing to meet him.
That's so cool. All right, yeah. So last question, probably, even though I always say that, and then I have more questions, but how do we build this game? How do we, like you said, we are seeing momentum. We are seeing bigger fields. But one of the things that I'm trying to do with Rec Poker, in addition to just selfishly getting to talk to people like you, is trying to encourage new players to get into the game, but those that are maybe playing it at homes or in bar leagues to go try the $30 at the casino, and those that are playing the small buy-ins at the casino to move up a little bit and play more often and just kind of build the game. But from your perspective, what's the strategy, whether it's has to do with tournament structures or tournament buy-ins or whatever it is? How do we continue to build the game?
Excellent question. I've messed around with that idea somewhat in the past. I'm not sure what this. I'm not sure what the solution is. In the past, I've been very lucky to be a part with 2 tours and be a part of running Aces Casino as well too. And what I did was, for the tours that I worked for, I would develop, like home games, develop like basically farm leagues where, they come in for $10 or $5 every weekend or so and try to win X money. They can win X amount of money per night and also win, like seats to our events, $350 events or $1,100 events. And that way they can, start coming to the casino more and, maybe have a chance at some success, have a chance at some real money. So I've developed a couple of farm leagues in the past to draw them to my own events, and I think once we get them there, I think, it all comes down to the experience they have there and what the casino provides. I think the casino needs to provide a flatter payout. I know because I am for quote, professional poker player, and I think I have an edge. I think that, for me, it'll be best if they pay 10%, 10% of the field, so that, when I win the most money I can get out of that, right? Mm-hmm. But I think, in order for us to grow poker even more here in the state, especially here where we live in a state where it's mostly recreational players or, semi-pros or just, weekend warriors, I think we need to spread it out even more, a little better. I think we need to spread it out to maybe even 15, 18%. And it should not be so top heavy. I saw some of the pay structures in our local card rooms in the past year or so. I think it has kind of been a subject, and I've looked at it and I just think it's just ridiculous, and that's why you see all these shops out there. That's one way I think that we can improve our market here. I think that's one way we can grow so that we can keep money in a lot more people's pocket for them to keep coming back. I think if 15 is even 18% player of the field cash, they're going to want to come out there again the next time we have another event. They're going to feel like they're a winner. They're going to keep the money in the market, in our ecosystem, And that's one way to do it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the solution is, but I that's one way to start.
Yeah, and I know that can be a controversial topic, but I tend to agree with you as well. It's sort of a psychological thing, just like playing the lottery is for people. They go and they buy scratch offs, and they go in with $10 and they leave with zero, but along the way they won several. They buy a bunch and they won $5, they won $20. They end up empty pocketed, but they feel like they won still. And I think
every time I go buy $5 worth of lottery ticket, and if I win $1 out of those one, I end up going back to get it, and to get myself another one.
Exactly, you feel like a winner, and I think that's my mentality with cashing too. Yeah, they're min cashes, but people feel like, okay, well, I didn't lose money. I can go back. I can spend it again. I can enter another tournament, or they just feel like a winner. And who doesn't want to go to a casino and come away feeling like they're a winner, like they're one of the top people that got money? And I think, I don't know the answer either, but I think about, say, if you have a field of 200 people, and you pay the top 35, or first place gets 35%, you get a certain amount. But if that field increases from 200 to 250, and it means you only get 30% instead of 35%, that's actually like the first place actually paid out 10% more. It's actually a bigger payout if you can increase the field size, even though you're not getting as much for first place. So I think there's some arguments that can actually, I think, help more people feel like they're winners and build the game, as well as increasing the overall prize pool because more of those people are playing. So it's an interesting conversation.
It really is. And if there's anyone else out there that's really good with like payout matrix and stuff like that, and you have some time, I know my friend Shane Nelson is pretty good with it, but he's a very busy guy. And if you would like to throw some ideas out there, feel free to contact me, as well too, and I'll look at it and let's show it, let's show it to these, casinos, these tournament directors or whatever. We can, present it to them and basically, basically just let them know that this is kind of what the people want and it's all for their benefit. The more people coming back for poker tournaments, the more people in their pits up there. So I'm sure they're not going to shy away from us.
Good stuff. And if anybody's listening out there, and if you want to just shoot information to me with like your feedback, whatever that might be, against it or for it, I'm happy to collect that and then pass it on to you, Kou, and we can go from there. Well,
that's awesome.
Well, any final words of wisdom as we wrap up here, young man?
No, once again, I really appreciate what you're doing. I really like this podcast idea, and I've been listening in the past as well too. And think you guys are doing a phenomenal job. I will most likely see you guys at the next All In for Africa. I think it's October, right?
Yeah, we just shifted the date. I haven't gone real public with it yet, but October 28th. Okay. So we'll chat about maybe getting you out there as a bounty if it works out for your schedule. That'd be fantastic. And just let me take that chance to just thank you for all you've done for that in the past. It's huge to have you big name guys come out and play amongst the recreational players and have fun and have them see everybody laughing and having a good time and raising money for a good cause.
Yep, absolutely. So good luck to everyone at the Felt, and we'll see you guys. And if you see me at the card room, don't hesitate to come say hi.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kou.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, well, that does it for another episode of Rec Poker. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to our official sponsor, Running Aces. And just a reminder, if you're interested in playing All In for Africa, that's going to be October 28th. It's a Saturday, and if you want to be a bounty for that, get in touch with me, and we will hook you up. If you want to make a donation, of course, that would be amazingly helpful. Just feel free to get in touch, and we will make that happen. My direct email is stevefredlund@gmail.com, or you can get a hold of me through Twitter or Facebook. Once again, thanks to Kou Vang, and thanks to all of you for supporting what we're doing with Rec Poker Podcast.